When I was talking about the announcements a minute ago, I should have said that if you need the assistance of any of those groups or things that we have ready to offer, I ask you to please email us. You can email anyone on the church staff, particularly if you have Rebecca Gurney's email. That's on the back of your bulletin. Email her. She's collecting those needs, and she can put you in touch with the right person. During Lent, we've been using Jill Duffield's book, Lent in Plain Sight, as a guide. She uses objects we find in everyday life, and she connects them to our faith and Scripture so they become meaningful for us. This week, she's asking us to look at coins. I have a dime here. It has the face of Franklin Roosevelt on it. It's the smallest coin. You couldn't see it even if we zoomed in really close. Every time I notice his face here, I think about the times I visited Hyde Park in New York and his home. He's one of my favorite presidents to read about and learn about. In America, we put the face of famous Americans of the past on the coin. In many countries, they put the face of a reigning king or queen on the coin. That's what was done in the Roman Empire. The face of the emperor was on the coin. And that's in the background of this interaction between Jesus and some religious teachers in Matthew. When an emperor governed Rome, coins were made with that person's image to signal that this was their time and they were in charge. The value of the money was guaranteed by the power and prestige of the person on the coin. The emperor's face on the coin meant that this age belonged to them. When the teachers of the law came to ask Jesus this question about money and paying taxes, they were trying to trap him. The question had no easy answer. They asked, is it right that we should pay taxes? No one likes to pay taxes. But what's going on here is more complex than that. The people who lived in Galilee and Judea were politically oppressed by Rome. Taxes were taken from them as a sort of tribute to a conquering nation. Paying taxes meant people were robbed by the people who defeated them and took their land. It also meant that they were being extorted by a tax collector who took some money for Rome and kept some money for himself. So they asked Jesus, should we pay taxes? If Jesus had said, no, don't pay taxes to that corrupt empire, he would have been charged with treason for inciting a rebellion against Rome. On the other hand, if he had said, yes, pay your taxes to Rome, he would have betrayed his own people and especially betrayed the vulnerable people who were cheated and robbed by a corrupt tax collection system. So it's a lose-lose question. Heads they win, tails you lose. So Jesus answered with a riddle. Whose image is on the coin, Jesus asks. That was easy. Caesar's image. They could see it. So Jesus answered, give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and give to God the things that are God's. Jesus is very clever. Jesus is actually brilliant because his answer is both a riddle and it leads us to a deeper truth. What belongs to God? Psalm 24 says, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. Everything belongs to God. You and I belong to God. Everyone belongs to God. Caesar's image was on the coin, telling everyone that that coin belonged to Caesar. Now let's go deeper. Whose image is on you? Whose image do you bear? You are made in God's image. You belong to the Lord. What does it mean to belong to God in this time? What does it mean to have God's image imprinted on us in this time? Today we're gathered at home. We're distancing ourselves. We're preparing for weeks without school. I can't even imagine what that's going to look like for our community. Our work will be different. Our travels will be different. Our days will be different. What does it mean to be made in God's image today? Well, first, it means that you and I are very precious. Each one of us has a responsibility to care for ourselves because we are precious. You are precious to God. You are precious to this church. You are precious to people that you love and that love you. You're precious to the world. So care for yourself. Wash your hands. Eat healthy foods. Take your temperature. Get plenty of rest. If you're over 65 or if you have underlying health conditions, stay home more often. And when you go out, keep a distance. Some of us will think this is silly. You know, it's just a lot of overreacting, and I get that. We usually overreact to news of impending doom. And I can't tell you how many times I have boarded up windows and moved furniture because a hurricane was coming that never showed up. But this is not that. A viral pandemic is not a hurricane. We need to take the advice of our healthcare leaders seriously. Care for yourself well. You are precious. You are made in God's image. Being made in God's image also means we have a calling to care for others. Some of us live out that calling to care for others in our professional lives. Doctors and nurses care for people. So do teachers and police officers, firefighters, and elected leaders, pastors. I give thanks and I pray every day for those whose work leads them to care for others in this time. Parents also have a calling to care for their children. Spouses have a calling to care for spouses. Friend is called to care for a friend. Neighbors are called to care for neighbors. Compassion is at the heart of God's character, and God made us to care for others because they too are made in the image of God. It's easy in a time of crisis to simply say, me first. I got to look out for me. That's why it's hard to get toilet paper on the shelf. This is a time when we need to take extra care of ourselves, but it's also a time to care for others. This is not a time to turn inward, even though it's a time to put more distance between ourselves and others. The urge to turn inward at this time is so strong. I feel like we need to challenge ourselves to reach out compassionately to others in whatever ways we can. What if you sat down prayerfully and intentionally and made a list of 10 people that you will commit to care for and walk alongside for the next 2 weeks to 2 months? People who are not in your household. You could do this as a family. You could start with people that are close to you geographically or people that you love who are far away. Imagine what a difference it would make if each of us made a list of 10 people that we committed to care for, to call more regularly, check in with by text message, to deliver supplies to if we were able to do that. Imagine what a difference it could make in their lives. And now I want you to imagine what a difference it could make in your life if you intentionally took the anxiety that you're feeling and put it towards care for 10 people in the next couple of months. Being made in God's image means being called to care for yourself and called to care for others. Being made in God's image also means that no matter what, you belong to God. Nothing will separate you from God's love. We need to hear those words now more than we've ever needed them. We're experiencing a worldwide moment like none of us have ever experienced before. Almost all of life seems disrupted and different and uncertain. Sleep is fitful. I wake up every morning and have to remind myself that this is not a nightmare, it's real. We feel vulnerable. Our fears linger close. We hold each other tighter. We say silent prayers for helpers. And we swallow our worry for friends. We need to hear these words as much as ever. To whom do we belong? We belong to God. In life and in death, body and soul, We belong to our faithful Savior, Jesus Christ, and nothing, 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 nothing will ever separate us from God's love. Amen.